Hello again. It's Mohammed here again. Welcome to the mic drop. Today we've got two guests here. That we're going to talk about the gender identity. One is Arthur Brittany, who is the first refugee in Britain who's got the status based on being a non-binary. And the second person here, our guest, is Kath Charters, who works for the Sahir House. I just let Kath talk a little bit about what she does in Sahir House and what Sahir House is. Hello, everyone. You're okay. You're having a chat just about the issue. Can you introduce yourself, Kath, and tell us what you do and what is your role?
Thank you for inviting me onto the call. It's really nice to be here. My name's Kath Charters. I'm the Wellbeing Practitioner at Sahir House. Well, just to say what Sahir does, and then I'll say what I do. So Sahir House is Merseyside's kind of HIV hub and community, and we provide information about HIV to anybody who might need updated information. We provide information across organisations so that people understand stigma, and we can reduce discrimination and address stigma in organisations and schools and places like that. So we do training around that. We also do HIV prevention work, and we support people who are living with HIV with any kind of problems that they may be facing, be that social, be it benefits, and be it medical, or be it around feeling lonely or isolated, and we provide peer group support for things like that. So we provide social and emotional support and counselling. We're also a bit broader, so we have some organisations that we have that meet at Sahir House that are part of the Sahir House family, as it were. And so one of them is Many Hands, One Heart, which is facilitated by Shireen Cowley and yourself, Mo. And so that is for people who are seeking asylum who identify in the LGBTQI umbrella. And I facilitate the Trans Health Merseyside group, which is for people who identify in the trans umbrella and who also may identify as non-binary or intersex as well, or just gender non-conforming or questioning or querying. And we provide peer group support in that group and information sessions around health and well-being.
Thanks very much, Kath. Just one of the things in regard to me is I'm originally from Iran, and I left Iran when I was 17. And I have to admit, confess shamefully, that when I was in Iran, I had some homophobic views. And thankfully, after coming to Europe, meeting my wife and other people, I sort of re-educate myself. But there is a lot of questions in regard to the gender identity that I still need to answer some answers, and I may ask some questions today from both of you that come across very stupid questions, but there are questions that sometimes I think a lot of people have got it, but they're too scared to ask in case they offend anyone. So beforehand, I'm just going to apologize for that, and hopefully we can clear some confusions and give the answers. So Arthur Brittany, I call you Brittany if you don't mind. Is that okay with you?
It's perfect, totally
Yeah,
fine.
because I know you like Brittany singer, so that's your
I love
favorite
it.
name probably.
I love it.
Um, we've known each other for a couple of years now, but I just wanted to, if you could just talk a little bit about your case, how in regard to how you got the refugee status, and what actually the transformation in regard to your identity, in regard to the gender identity, when you sort of realize about your gender identity. Is that okay with you?
Sure. In fact, Mo, you and I, we got an episode on first season that people might want to look at that. That will be great. Catch up. But just to make it shorter, things has changed since then. And in that episode, I was still identified myself as a gay person, a gay man. But things has changed since then, and I would say this is why one of the reasons we are having this episode, because now I identify myself as someone that it's a non-binary person. This means I don't identify myself as the typical genders that the society gives. So it means that I identify myself as a man or a female. So I'm not conforming with those labels with me. So my gender expression or identity, it's non-binary. Um, so yeah, in terms of that, and like you said, of my case, it was not like I knew all the time I was non-binary. You know, it was a long process. I have across therapy that I came to the conclusion that I felt like I fit in these categories being non-binary. You know, I started to do therapy not because I was questioning my gender identity. I started therapy because I felt depressed for all the consequence of the asylum process that was taking my well-being away from me. So, and part of the question that was trying to get to know me a little bit more, my therapist started to ask me. So when my therapist asked me if I feel that I wanted to do the transition or I wanted to become a transgender person, I said no, because I don't feel I need that. But at the same time, I say I don't feel like I belong to the stereotype of a man. So I neither belong to the stereotype of being a man. So she started to tell me, so you know, there's a lot of more people like you that they don't feel like that. They don't feel they don't fit in this pattern, and this they are called non-binary or gender non-conforming. And she started to explain me a little bit that she gave me some information, and after reading that and after a little bit of research by myself, I say, you know what, I fit here. I think I am this kind of person.
You probably were always that person, but you just sort of like realize that is the name for it. You understand me? Is that
Yeah,
right?
yeah, being really honest, when I told people I am non-binary, people they say we knew it. I mean,
Mm,
it totally makes sense for them in their minds.
mm,
So, you know, because some people say, some people all the time say, you know, you're really girly to define yourself as a man.
mm,
You too, girl, to to to
mm,
to define yourself as a man. But you're not also that masculine to say you're a man. And
mm,
it's true. It's like, I mean, so probably I would say this. I was a little bit confused in that sense. I was a little bit lost.
mm.
And but when I knew the term and when I started to receive this help, that helped me to cope and say, you know, yes, actually I fit here.
Mm. And that was just basically about a year ago. Is that right?
No, in fact, I started to define myself as non-binary in 2018,
Mm,
uh, around September, August, something like that, which was when
mm,
I started to define myself as
mm.
this. You know.
Yeah. And you just mentioned that many of your friends, they were not surprised. But I just basically in that 2 years, I wanted to see if you have any challenges and any sort of barriers or any issues that you've sort of like, I don't know, if you wanted to open a bank account or certain, anything has happened that, you sort of felt that people are not accepting you for what you are, or they can't really they don't take you seriously, because that's another thing is sometimes people sort of think is a joke sort of thing. So have you had that sort of a stereotyping, prejudice, and um
Yeah, you know, in fact, it's kind of interesting that people think it's my nickname or think like you say, it's a joke to be called Arthur Brittany.
mm,
You say some people that you say that's not their real name, that's fake. And they say show, and even people might be at some moment probably asking me, show me your ID to check if that's actually your name. But the truth is that's actually my name, Arthur Brittany. And you know, it makes sense for me as a non-conforming person and queer person, non-binary, to have a masculine and feminine labeled name. I was just surprised a little bit. I tried to open a bank account. I didn't get much struggle with them because I was also receiving help from with a recommendation from Crisis. Uh, but the thing is, it was curious the attitude of the agent. when she looked at my reference, the reference letter they wrote that it says Arthur Britney, it was like Arthur Britney, and they just later checked the ID. It's like, yeah, actually that's their name, and she even called her manager to check. It was like this name, like it's not male and female, and they say it doesn't matter if the name is like that. If it's the same as the ID, you should take that name. So it's like people really don't get sometimes that kind of identity, but at the same time, it's curious. It's curious because when you fill the form, which is an online form, they ask you if you are man, female, or non-binary, and I tick non-binary. So it's interesting that even they got that on the application form that I was non-binary. They were surprised with the name.
Okay. Well, Kath, what about the experience that you had with the supporting groups that you've got? Do you think there are similar challenges or barriers for the people who sort of like they don't confirm themselves as a man or a woman? I'm talking about the British in general.
Yeah, I was just talking to somebody only yesterday who is a trans man, and their GP surgery, although they would like to have the title, if that's the right word, Mr. They want to be called Mr. and then their name. So it's a I can't remember what a title, but there's another word for it. I've forgotten what it is now. I'm sorry, I've had a very busy day today. So their GP surgery is saying that they can't do that, and they want to say MX. Now, some people might like to have MX. That person specifically wants to be called Mr. And it's not happening, and he quite often gets dead named as well. So the GP surgery is saying that they haven't got that on their system or their equality and diversity monitoring form. And I've suggested that that's not the case, and I've put them in touch with Healthwatch in their area. So the Healthwatch, it's the kind of thing Healthwatch would do if you've got a problem similar to that with your GP or dentist or NHS service. You can go to Healthwatch and they can follow them through on their equality and diversity opportunity monitoring forms, so that kind of thing can be ironed out. It should be there. It should be on their monitoring forms. They should be able to. Someone should be able to ask for what they want to have and how they want to be addressed.
Okay. And are there any website to give any sort of information about that or advising?
Websites that I always follow are either Stonewall or a website called Gyres. So Gyres are really good for people who might need to get access to that information, or people who might need to give that information to services. So Gyres, it's www.GIRES, and it's Gender Intelligence Research and Education Service.
Okay. Brittany, just, as we've known each other for many, many years, couple of years at least, and when you came to Many Hands One Heart, you came as a gay man, and we didn't really discuss anything about your gender. We always sort of assumed that as a gay man you're a man. So have you had any sort of issues or problems or with the people in the Many Hands One Heart, other LGBT plus people, and migrants mainly, or people that they're not from Britain? Do you think they find it difficult to find out, or they understand what's the situation with you?
In terms of my closer knowns, I would like I said before, they know me, and for they make sense this definition of non-binary. And however, that was not the case with the Home Office. And like even when I was on the asylum process, and when I put part of my evidence that I identify no as a non-binary, and I wanted to be addressed with they them, the Home Office was continually calling me the gay man and using the pronouns he. So that was like something that they completely skipped that bit of me that I was trying to raise, that I got a different gender expression right now, identify myself with different pronouns, and they were not respecting that. It was until I went to the upper tribunal, and when the judge, the first thing she done is like, which pronouns you want to be addressed? Because I seen people call you all the time, he, the gay man, but you say you're non-binary. And so it's totally a completely different stuff. And we need to start by that. So yeah, I would say in the term, I'm not having issues with like close people. They usually, if when they start to meet me, when they realize I was non-binary, they say, which pronoun you want me to address you, because I didn't knew in the past. And I say, don't worry, but you can use they them if you feel comfortable. And I'm a little bit tolerant in that sense, that with close friends that probably we don't meet really often, that they can get confused with pronouns, because some people, they try to change that. They say, okay, I know I should use they them, but sometimes they use she or they use he, and it's like, okay, it's okay, but like in the sense, like, I know they're not doing because they want to put a label. I'm doing because they are still working on that. And I'm a little bit flexible on that sense, that I don't mind really on the daily life, you and me talking, you can say she, he, they, them. But like in more formal stuff, yeah, I totally am into the they, them. But like in real life, I'm more flexible. But that's my case.
Yes, of
That's
course.
my case. That's my own form of handle the things. But there are other people that for them they are really important. You respect their pronouns.
Yeah,
Because
I have to be. Yeah. I have to be honest with you. I mean, English is not my first language. I get my pronouns wrong all the time. I call she, he, and he, she. And sometimes it's been cases that, that has happened. And I sort of have to get used to, if there's someone asks me to use another pronoun, then I have to basically really sort of like watch what I'm saying, and it's a habit, it goes, hopefully, as you get more accustomed to it, it's just going to pass. And as I said before, as a person who come from Iran, I'm quite ignorant in a lot of issues that I have to educate myself. And as sort of like, one of the things I've come across, and I just want to see if Kathy's, I've seen that as well, that a lot of times heterosexual people, white people actually sort of confuse the gender identity and sexuality. So I don't know if you come across that, and I sort of like ask someone who's okay, you're non-binary, but are you lesbian or are you gay man? And that sort of thing. You say, well, that's got nothing to do with it, and obviously you don't ask people's sexuality as soon as you meet someone. And have you come across that sort of I just wanted to see what are the any sort of examples for both of you that you come across that not just say politically incorrect, but also totally offensive. People say things that sometimes they don't realize, unconsciously they say things that they don't realize. So if you could give us some of those examples, I really appreciate that. Start with Kath first.
Okay, so yeah, I think that can happen, and I think for some people, so it's quite hard. For some people, it's difficult to separate gender expression and sexual orientation. And then I think that can be fair that people can get. So I guess I'm talking about people in a healthcare setting, for example, in a service provision, if you like. And so then, if somebody comes to them, for example, and says that they're identifying as trans woman, but they're married, and the marriage is a heterosexual marriage, then that can really confuse people. And actually, the person who is transitioning and their partner may be really fluid and discovering their new, if it is new, sexuality with one another. So does someone who formerly identified as a man in a marriage situation, who is now transitioning, is that relationship now, has it become a relationship between two women, and are they lesbians? So people get really curious about these things, and really want to know. And in fact, not everybody knows themselves. They're in transition, and part of your transition can just mean you yourself
You still
are
don't know.
exploring your sexual preferences, your sexual orientation. What have you gone to that service for? Why is the point of that question? Is it just curiosity, in which case that's potentially offensive, or is there something you need to know to provide that person with a service that is life-threatening? So, for example, some kind of screening like breast screening, or the screening for ovarian cancers, or things like that. So I think people need to just be very mindful about, yes, you might need some information and you might need some clear medical history, but to be curious and start asking people about certain things. Is it relevant? Has that person invited you to ask that? Has it got a context? And that's all I think.
That's right.
I don't know whether that answers your question.
Yeah. Yeah. What about, you want to add anything to that, Brittany? Just
Yes. So right. So this is another example or a second thing I live on my life, and I know it's not the best thing to talk about. I know it's not the best example, but it's important to raise up. And it's about my sexual life on Grindr. And I know Grindr is a wild place. Grindr is like a jungle. That is two options: you eat or you're a be eaten. I'm not talking about on the bed. I'm talking about in the sense of it's like a chase game or something like that. But it's interesting that identify myself as non-binary on Grindr. I even put non-binary on my gender, and even I got a picture of me like looking like gorgeous girly with the curly hair sometimes, or wearing lipstick. And the next picture you see of me is with a beard, with tied hair, looking like a guy. But that's me. That's what means for me to be non-binary. And so people, they came to me like, oh, you look gorgeous, but only as a girl. Do you want to dress for me? Do you want to use this dress or sexy lingerie or something like that? And I just tell them, I'm not here to be your fetish, because I'm not a trans woman. And it's important to raise this because, it's important to give the space to trans women, because it's totally different to be a trans woman than non-binary. I don't want to wear dress in my daily basis. I mean, I feel the freedom to do it if I wanted. And I know people wouldn't care about that. I don't feel I need to do that because I won't feel it fits on me. So I don't wear woman stuff for that, because I feel I don't need that. In that sense, it's important. Like in that kind of aspect of sexual life, like to say, this is me, this is what I wanted to do. And if I want to go to another place or cross my boundaries because I want to, not because you want it.
I just wanted to say thanks for saying about fetishism, or someone fetishizing you. I can't say the word. I think that can happen very often, and that's why it's very clear to have. That's why it's very good to have professional boundaries, because we have to be very careful that people aren't fetishizing. Fetishizing, is that the right word? People's well-being, life, and sexual preferences and private life. It's you have to be really careful about that. People may have a curiosity, but that curiosity can be fueled in a different way. And so that's why we really need, I'm really so glad you said that, because that's why people need to have professional boundaries. And I just wanted to come in on that, because that does get reported to me quite a lot. And so thanks for saying that. So yeah.
That's been actually a really fantastic session, and I really think that we should carry on this. We're going to have a second session regarding the same issue, and maybe also explore a little more about the trans men and trans women, and the issues that they also face. That I thank Kath, and also thank you, Arthur, Brittany, and we have the second session. Thanks very much.